super fun, and all about artisan cheese and more to melt your peaceful heart and toast your peaceful life. Coming to you from the Appalachian Mountains of southwestern Virginia, this is the Peaceful Heart Farmcast.
Hey, this is Scott Hall from Peaceful Heart Farm, and you are listening to the Peaceful Heart Farmcast.
Hello, everybody. Melanie Hall here. Hope you are doing very, very well. The conversation today and every day revolves around the value of tradition, traditional homestead living, traditional raw milk products, and artisan cheese. Topics discussed here are designed to create new perspectives and possibilities for how you might add the taste of tradition to your life. What can you do with milk? That's my topic for today. There are lots of ways to use milk. It's a very versatile food. There is so much more than just drinking milk out of a glass. I know you didn't drink right out of the jug, right? Mama said don't do that. As always, I want to take a minute and welcome all the new listeners and to say welcome back to the veteran homestead loving regulars. I appreciate you all so much. I'm so excited to share with you what's going on at the farm this week. First of all, Scott just came in and showed me a picture of the new mailbox and farm sign setup. It looks great. So the mailbox was going downhill. It's been out there for about 15 years. And so we got a new mailbox, and then it's got this 4x4 pole that goes up and over the top of it. And there's this wonderful wrought iron, cast iron sign hanging from it that says Peaceful Heart Farm. It's got some pictures of animals on it, and it's really, really great. I ordered the sign online from an Etsy shop. I found this guy who makes really great signs and it was a very reasonable price. And he had lots of samples to choose from, and there was an interactive website, so you would choose the design. And of course, I chose the one that had the farm and the farm animals on it. And then you type in your farm name, and voila, you could see how the sign would look when completed. Because our name, Peaceful Heart Farm, is kind of long, so it was going to be on 2 lines, and I needed to see what it was going to look like. And I'm just really so pleased with the work and the quickness of the shipment. But just the design is just really great. And I'm doubly pleased with Scott's work and how beautiful it looks in real life. And now people can tell when they've reached the farm. The GPS kind of brings you right to it, but we are 1,000 feet off the road behind a bunch of trees. It can be a little spooky driving off into the wilderness without a sign indicating that you're actually on the right track. So I took a stroll out into the garden this morning just to see how everything was going. I wanted to take a walk in the nice autumn air, take a look at the leaves. Not quite peak yet, but getting close. So I don't go every day out to the garden anymore. There just isn't that much out there. And with the ground cloth, the weeds are almost non-existent. I love that ground cloth. There are 5 beds that are completely empty, 5 out of 20. And all the beans are in except for the baby limas. I'll wait until the first frost is forecast before pulling out all of those. There's a lot of those that are still, they need some time to grow and mature. But the Crowder peas, today I picked a few more from the garden. I really, really love these. I'm already looking forward to growing even more of these next year. I want to share more at the farmer's market of these great Crowder peas. And if they don't go, hey, I just can them and keep them for myself. I've talked about these beauties before. They are so easy to grow. I've never had disease, knock on wood. The only pests I have are aphids, and they don't affect the development of the peas. Next year, I'm going to try putting the plants on a trellis. In the past, I've just let them grow all over the place. However, I want to try a trellis because I think it will make picking them so much easier. They get so tangled up. The branches are kind of like half runners. They will branch out 2 or 3 feet, just going every which way. And I've really just been letting them grow into a jungle, and they twist around each other and get all tangled up. We'll see how it goes with the trellis next year. Now the peppers just keep going as well. I mentioned last week that I'm working on creating pepper jam with the idea of selling it as Christmas gifts. These are going to be gorgeous, red, green, and yellow varieties of pepper jam. And they'll be hot, mild, and medium, respectively, red, green, yellow. So that's an exciting project. That's kind of an ongoing project that I'm working on. And then I've got more potatoes that keep sprouting out of the ground every day, but how long before the frost kills the plants? That's an experiment in progress. I'll get a really good idea of how late is too late for planting of fall potatoes. The tomatoes are actually blooming again. I thought they were going to die off with the blight that they have, the late season blight, but they're blooming again. So I'm just going to go out there and cut those down and put them on the compost pile. There's no way those tomatoes are going to make it to maturity. We really only have a couple more weeks before our first frost is going to hit us. Now the culinary herbs are doing. They're actually going to need to be transplanted into pots. They look great, except for the basil. The basil's got some kind of rust on it. Eventually, they're going to go into a permanent herb garden. Don't know if that's going to happen next year. So having them in the pots for winter, it'll be fine. They grow and spread so fast. Well, the basil and the parsley are annuals. I'll probably plant those in the garden again next year. But for the rest, I really need to get cracking on designing exactly how I want that permanent herb garden planted. And I guess perhaps it'll have an annual section for the things like the parsley and the basil. Although they'll go to seed, they will reseed themselves. So that's another little project we got going. Now the cows got to try out their new loafing area. I talked about that in the last podcast when I was talking about the creamery. Scott was working on this area with fencing and a very ingenious gate system. And the girls spent some time in there getting to know the area. He's got pictures up on Facebook of them hanging out in the loafing area. And cows are creatures of habit. They're very calm and peaceful animals until you put something in front of them that they've never seen before. And Scott's getting them used to being in this area. So they just kind of hung out there. The donkeys were there, lounging around, just kind of getting to know the area. At some point, we'll even walk them through the milking stanchion area. So right now they come up to the stairs that go up to the milking stanchion area and then just take off to the left into that loafing area that we call it. So you can just hang out there. But eventually they'll go up those steps and over into the milking stanchion area. And we'll probably walk them through there several times before trying to use it regularly for milking, because you want them calm and comfortable when you're actually in there doing the milking. They need to be comfortable with it, and that takes some time and training effort to accomplish. The calves are getting fat with all the milk they are getting. We give them a lot, and we're going to keep going until the end of this month, and I'll begin to wean them off the milk then. And by that time, Virginia will have developed her rumen enough to be fully self-sufficient on grass. She's just about 4 months old now, so she'll be about 4.5 months old when we wean her off. Now, Wendell's already past that point. He's good on grass, but I can't really wean him without weaning her. He would just push up under her neck and just dislodge her mouth from the bottle. He already does that. If he finishes his bottle before she finishes hers, he just puts his head up under her neck and pushes her head up until she lets go of the bottle. She does the same thing. They're quite greedy for their milk. But it's a fun time, morning and evening, to go out there and give them their bottles. Now, there's talking about the creamery, there's not much really happening there. There is another wall that's been completed, but most of Scott's time went into completing that loafing area and tweaking it a bit here and there, and then the mailbox that he worked on today. He did get the attic wall up. There was some acrobatics involved in that job. He was working in and around other sections and obstacles like the stairway, but it's done and he's injury-free. That is always a worry for me. I'm a worrier, I admit it. Prayer helps a lot. Now those quail in the penthouse are doing really, really well. They only escape occasionally now. It's like they've learned to run to the back of the cage when I open the door. Previously, they seemed to only run toward the door and then ended up falling out. Literally, they would fall out. Now they will sometimes fly out, but before they were flying around, they would run and their little legs were still churning as they unexpectedly fell to the ground when there was nothing underneath them. And in 2 more weeks, we'll sort them out and decide which ones to keep and which ones go to freezer camp. We will be keeping quite a few extra through the winter this year. We want to make sure we have plenty of breeding stock in the spring. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about the fruit. I haven't talked about fruit much. I noticed that the muscadine grapes are disappearing. We have two grapevines. One's kind of gold, has gold grapes, and the other one kind of a bronze grape. And they both produced grapes this year. Last year, only the gold one produced. Anyway, this morning, most of the grapes were gone. Probably a raccoon. They must be ripe. I can't tell when they're ripe. I should have told Scott about that. He would know. Let's talk about what you can do with milk. I want to talk a little bit about what you can do with milk. You've heard me talking about making cheese. So that's one thing, of course, and there's all different kinds of cheese, and that's what I talked about last week was the different types of cheese. But there's so much more. Milk is one of nature's most perfect foods, and like all high-quality perishable foods, milk is best when it's fresh. Homestead milk from your own cow varies in flavor due to the seasons and grasses being consumed by your animals, but you can count on it being sweet, kind of light, delicious, and wholesome with a fresh taste. Commercial milk has a cooked flavor. I know you don't notice it. Every once in a while, I end up taking a sip of regular milk from the store, and it never ceases to amaze me the difference in taste. It tastes cooked. I never noticed it until I started drinking milk straight from the cow. Now it stands out like a sore thumb. I love my fresh milk. Knowing what you can do with milk is important when you have a lot of it coming in every day. It also gives you some insight into how you can use your creativity to learn to make lots of great tasting milk treats. You don't have to have your own cow to make most of this stuff. You can use milk you purchase in the grocery store, except for ultra-pasteurized milk. All of them are going to work fine, but ultra-pasteurized milk is not going to work. It will not make cheese or yogurt or any other fermented milk product. Now let's start with cream. You get cream by skimming milk after it has been left standing for at least 24 hours. The longer you let it sit, the thicker the cream on the top is. And a caveat on what I just said about making things with store-bought products. Cream these days generally has alginate added to artificially thicken it. It's quite harmless, but adds to the demise of the flavor. And of course, it's pasteurized as well, so it has that cooked flavor. Real sweet cream drizzled over apple pie is a delicacy everyone should try at least once in their life. I mean, real, fresh, sweet cream. Cream you buy in the store is still pretty good, but it can't hold a candle to that fresh stuff. Now, personally, I like it with fruit. Think peaches and cream, strawberries and cream, blueberries and cream, and so on. Yum, yum. You pour the cream over the fruit, stir it up real well, and let it sit for an hour or so. And you have a treat like no other. Some of the juice will come out of that fruit and get into the cream. Oh, and the sweet cream. Oh, it's amazing. Now, other cream treats include whipped cream and ice cream, which usually has some milk in it, but it's mostly cream. Another treat you will want to try is clotted cream. That is a cream dish that is cooked in the oven. I have plans to do a podcast on just that topic in the near future. I also use some cream to make half and half for Scott's coffee. I fill a quart jar with 2 cups of cream and then top it off with whole milk. So that equates to a little more than half and half because the whole milk also has cream in it, but I have found it to be a great, great blend. Cream can be processed in other ways, such as making creme fraiche, which is a type of cream cheese. I have a recipe for creme fraiche on the website. There will be a link in the show notes. You can make sour cream as well. I've never really been successful with making sour cream, so I'll stick with the creme fraiche. The last thing I want to mention about cream is making butter and ghee or clarified butter. The skimmed cream is placed in a butter churn and it's processed until the butter fat separates from the milk. And now you have butter, just the fats, and then you have buttermilk, which is the milk proteins. I have talked about this kind of buttermilk before. It is unlike the cultured buttermilk that you purchase in the store. This is a traditional buttermilk. If you're making a traditional buttermilk, generally you set out whole milk overnight and let it sour slightly, cure a little bit before churning the butter out of it. The resulting buttermilk is a treat my dad loved with all his heart. He talked of buttermilk poured over cornbread all the time. It was probably his favorite treat of all time. Now, the butter that has been separated from the buttermilk can now be packaged and frozen for a long time, or you can use it as needed. I keep mine out on the counter, so it's always soft. Now, if you do this, you will need to use it quickly, as I do, or it will go rancid. Now, you can add vitamin E to help keep it from going rancid, but ours never lasts that long. But that's just an idea that you might add a little bit of, I think 200 mLs to, or 200 units to like a pound of butter. There are also tools called butter bells that help keep butter fresh on the counter. The butter is put into the bell part and then it's set upside down on a dish of cold water, and that keeps the air from reaching the butter and oxidizing the fat, which is what causes it to go rancid. So that's butter. Now, ghee is made by further processing the butter. I have a recipe for ghee on the website as well. Basically, the butter is melted and cooked on the stovetop until the little bits of milk, the little bit of milk proteins still left in the butter is separated from the fat. Now, clarified butter, very similar to ghee, is reached as soon as the separation occurs. Ghee is made by continuing to cook the butter until the protein bits are browned. So the clarified butter, they'll just be little white bits of protein that'll start floating, and then you can just strain that out. But if you want ghee, then you're actually going to cook those protein bits until they're browned. Ghee is very shelf stable without refrigeration. I have some in jars on my canned food shelves right now. It's just not going to go bad. You got to keep it away from the air, of course. Otherwise, you're going to it is a fat and it will oxidize with air. Now let's talk about fermented milk products. We're moving on from cream to other milk products. All of these require some type of fermentation. The buttermilk and creme fraiche I talked about are also fermented products. However, cheese and yogurt are probably the most common fermented milk products. So I'm not going to talk about cheese. I talk about cheese on other podcasts. I will talk about making yogurt just a little bit. I love making yogurt with our milk. It's so easy and so yummy. I get so many compliments on it. It's so creamy, they say. And that's because it's not made from powdered milk like the stuff you buy in the store. Not only is that product made from powdered milk, but they also add stuff to thicken it. And all of that affects the flavor and the texture of it. I make mine by heating the milk to just below boiling, around 180 to 190 degrees Fahrenheit, and then quickly cooling it. This destabilizes the proteins so that the cultures can work on them better. Once I cool it to a temp of 117 or so, I add in yogurt with active cultures at a rate of 1 tablespoon per half gallon of whole milk. Then I use my Kosori multifunction pressure cooker, it's like an Instant Pot, to complete the process. In 8 hours, I have delicious and nutritious yogurt. That multifunction pressure cooker holds it at that temperature, 110 to 115 degrees. That's your window there for making great yogurt. I have that yogurt recipe on the website as well. Now let's talk about kefir. That's the last idea that I'm going to present here for what you can do with milk. It's a fermented milk drink similar to a thin yogurt that it's made from kefir grains. It's a specific type of mesophilic symbiotic culture. This drink originated in the Caucasus, Eastern Europe, and Russia, where it's prepared by inoculating cow, goat, or sheep milk with kefir grains. Of course, my recipe is going to be for cows, and it can be found on our website. And all of these recipes will have links in the show notes as well. Well, that's it for today's podcast. We always have something going on at the homestead, and I love sharing with all of you. Things will be winding down for the winter soon. Topics for winter conversation will be varied. I look forward to it. I hope you enjoyed the information on various ideas for what you can do with milk. I didn't talk about cheese because the previous podcast was about types of cheese. Refer to that one for ideas on using milk for cheese making. Check out all of my recipes on our website. All of my recipes are printable. Let me know how they work for you. If you enjoyed this podcast, please hop over to Apple Podcast or whatever podcasting service you use, subscribe, and give me a 5-star rating and a review. If you like this content and want to help out the show, the absolute best way you can do that is to share it with any friends or family who might be interested in this type of content. Let them know about the Peaceful Heart Farmcast. Thank you so much for stopping by the homestead. And until next time, may God fill your life with grace and peace.